What would we do if we had to start a brand new POD business in 7 days or less with only $250 and we had to make our first sale to non-family and friends in that 7-day period? My name is Kerry Adrian here with my co-host Adrian Von Arx, and welcome to the number one show for ambitious print-on-demand sellers, the Print on Demand Playbook Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Adrian, how are you, my friend?
Dude, I am doing very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. The weather is finally starting to cool down a little bit. It's been like 90, which sounds really hot, but at least the mornings have been like a little bit cooler. I've been hearing it's really hot where you're at, right? Even hotter than here.
Yeah. It's still hot in Phoenix, but that's okay. We'll just consider it an extended summer. It's great, no complaints. But I mean, as we go into the colder weather, this is actually a huge opportunity for so many print-on-demand sellers, especially those selling apparel. Because not only are there new holidays to create products and designs for, but as the weather cools down, there's also new styles that become more desirable. Like summer's all about like the t-shirt. It's t-shirt season, right? Fall is like sweatshirt and hoodie season. So that's obviously really exciting because easy way to just launch more products with the, wardrobe refresh. And what I love about it too is that sweatshirts and hoodies have higher profit per item than t-shirts. So I'm excited for the weather to cool down, man. It's good for business.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I have been able to throw on the hoodie in the mornings and a little bit in the evenings, but it's still been pretty hot during the day, but we're getting there. We're making some progress. It's like 50, 55 in the morning. It feels really good.
Nice.
So I'm excited about the fall and about the winter. It is the fourth quarter. So it's big time sales opportunity right now. We're heading into Black Friday. We got Halloween coming up, and then obviously Christmas and everything happening towards the end of the year. So it's time for the big sales.
Let's go. Speaking
I want to mention
coming up.
Yeah.
We have an announcement that we're going to make for the first time.
Yeah, I want to make a quick announcement. We've been talking a little bit about our 100th episode coming up. So this is episode 96. So that means 97, 98, 99. So four weeks from when you're listening or when this episode drops, 4 weeks. Is that right? Yeah, 4 weeks is going to be the 100th episode. We're really excited. So we do want to do something a little bit special for our listeners. And so what we'd like to do is we want to do some personal store reviews for some of our most dedicated listeners. And so what we want to do is we want to review 3 of our listeners' stores. And what we're going to do is we're just going to privately, we'll jump on together and record just a breakdown of your store, just kind of a video review, sharing our screen, going through your pages, telling you kind of what maybe some advice that we would give you on just improving your store, improving your designs, mock-ups, product descriptions, those kind of things, the design of your website. So we want to give out 3 free store reviews. And what we're going to ask you to do, you can actually enter right now. Okay. There's going to be 2 steps to enter. First of all, we want to ask you just to leave us a review on the podcast. You can do this on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Even if it's on YouTube, just drop a comment. If you primarily watch on YouTube, drop us a comment with some feedback, a quick review of the podcast. It could be 1 sentence, 2 sentences, whatever works for you. And then just shoot me and Adrian a direct message over on Instagram. So I'm at Kerry Adrian. Adrian
at Ecom Legends Academy.
You can throw us both into a message. You can DM one of us, one or the other. Either way, you can put us both in there. Would probably be the easiest thing. Just send us a little group message and just say, hey, love the pod. I left you a review under this name. And we want you to send us a DM because that's the way that we'll be able to get in touch with you. We can't get your email from the review and all that stuff. So we just want to ask you to leave us a quick review, shoot us a DM. This would take 3 or 4 minutes. And we want to hook the first 3 people up. We're just going to go right in order. So the first 3 people that do that, we're going to hook you up with a free store review from us. That's exciting, man. I'm excited to maybe see some stores we haven't seen before from some of our listeners. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And the inspiration for this actually came from one of our listeners. So one of our listeners DM'd me on Instagram and was like, hey, I was just listening to the podcast. I'm excited for the 100th episode. What do you think about doing a store review for a listener? And I was like, Yes. Yes, we're going to make that happen.
That's awesome.
And so I talked to Kerry about it and we're like, let's go. Let's go. Like, we love giving back to our listeners. We love you guys for being listeners. I'm pumped to do this, man. I'm really pumped. So if you do DM us, we'll pick 3. And we will reach out to you and let you know that you've been selected. And then we'll give you sort of the next steps. So really looking forward to it. Whether you want a review or not, please still consider leaving us a review. It helps us a lot. It helps us grow the show. It helps us reach more podcasts, Print on Demand podcast listeners, and we really appreciate it. So thank you in advance.
Yeah, and I would say if if you're listening to this a little bit late and you're like, man, you maybe look and see that there's a bunch of new reviews or something, and you might have missed the deadline, or you might not be a part of that first 3. I would say still leave us a review and shoot us a DM, because I'm sure we can hook you up with something that might be helpful to you, like maybe a free training that we have or some resources we could throw your way just to help you on your journey. So we want to hook everybody up as much as we can, and we really appreciate you listen to this podcast, being a listener to this podcast. We can't believe, we're constantly just amazed that we're approaching 100 episodes, which is, it's going to be right almost at 2 years of doing this every week. I guess that would technically be episode 104 would be 2 years, but every week for 2 years. And it's grown like crazy. And we're just really thankful for all of our listeners and to be able to do this podcast for sure.
100%.
Speaking of our podcast listeners, I do want to feature a quick review, and then we'll jump into today's episode. So I'm going to go through this quickly, but this review is from Mac Lover. Mac Lover over on Apple Podcasts said, my new favorite podcast. They said, just diving into print on demand podcasts, I found the playbook and my search is over. I've only listened to 6 episodes. That's a lot, though. I've only listened to 6 episodes, but I'm amazed how much information is packed into each one. Looking forward to the binge. Mac Lover, we love you.
Freaking go.
Thank you. And we appreciate it very much. And the fact that you've listened to 6 hours of us talking already is pretty amazing. So thank you for being a listener, and we hope you enjoy the catalog for sure.
You're awesome.
All right, we got a really fun episode today, so I want to dive in. We spent a lot of time talking about 100th episode, so I want to dive in. Adrian, I got a disclaimer for you, man. We got to be pretty brief with these answers, because there's a lot that we're going to try to cover in this episode, because we're kind of putting together a whole business plan of how we would launch within 7 days. So we just got to keep our answers somewhat brief to get our listeners a lot of value in like a 60-minute time frame. So just kind of that disclaimer up front. We're going to do our best. No promises, but we're going to do our best. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to be going into each aspect of launching a print on demand business. And we're each going to be kind of giving our thoughts on what we would do if we had, and just to recap, if we had to launch a POD business in only 7 days, we only had a $250 budget, and we had to also get our first sale from non-family or friends. We can't call mom and be like, buy a t-shirt. If we had to get our first sale from non-family and friends within that 7-day time period. So we're going to be going through things like, what niche would we go into? What products would we sell? What would we focus on when building out our store? What software would we use for design, and just different tools that we might use? And we're going to talk about, at the end of this episode, we're going to talk about each of our marketing strategies that we would use to make our first sale. Adrian, I think you're going to be surprised at some of the choices I would make. They're maybe not some of the typical things that I would say on some of these areas. And the reason for that, 2 things. I wanted to do this episode because I think when you put constraints on things, it forces you to really think about how to approach a goal in a different way. And I would encourage our listeners to, even if it sounds silly, if you actually put those constraints on yourself and you put deadlines on things, and you put goals and say, I'm going to accomplish this by this time, within this, time frame, with this budget, whatever. When you put those constraints on things, it forces you to be really creative, and it forces you to really approach a project or a goal in a different way, because you have to accomplish something in that time. You could even go as so far as to have somebody hold you accountable, and maybe there's punishment if you don't hit it, right? I mean, I know that sounds silly. It doesn't have to be something like crazy, but maybe there's something you have to do. Maybe you have to give up some money, or give your buddy some money or something, just just to kind of motivate you a little bit more, right? And put those constraints on. I think it's an interesting way to do it. And so with that, what that means is that, at least for me, I can't speak for Adrian. I know he's going to have some thoughts of himself, but this plan that I'm going to go through with you is not necessarily exactly what I would recommend if you're starting a new brand, mainly because everyone's financial situation is different. Your goals are a little bit different. The time frame that you want to do it in might be a little bit different. For most people, you're probably wanting to start a long-term brand. And I would generally recommend starting with like organic marketing and kind of building upon that and those kind of things. But in this situation, when we put these constraints on it, when we say like $250, got to do it in 7 days, got to get the first sale. Like my goal is that we get the first sale in 7 days. So it changes the way that I would approach it a little bit. And I think 95% of what I'm going to recommend in this episode, I would probably recommend to most of our listeners starting out. But understand that I am approaching it in a slightly different way because of those constraints. So I can't speak for Adrian, but there are a few things in here that I might, I might do a little bit differently if my goal was different. All right, man, you ready to dive in?
Let's do this. I'm pumped.
Okay, so number one question, and I've got a bunch of questions, and I'm going to kind of go through these and pose these to Adrian, get his thoughts. The first question, and kind of the first thing that I always think about, what would I do? Or like, what would I do first? It would be choosing the niche. I'm not going to go into why you need a niche. There's episodes you can go listen to in the catalog on niche. We've talked about niche a lot before. But the first thing is, what niche would I pick today in the month of October 2024? I've got 7 days. What niche would I go in to get that sale in 7 days? And I've picked out 3 potential niches that I would go into, and I'll explain my reasoning behind these. Definitely want to hear what Adrian has to say. But I also went into ChatGPT and I just asked ChatGPT, what are the most popular apparel niches in 2024? I just wanted to know from ChatGPT, like, what's a quick list? And just quickly to go through those. And it's interesting what it said, because I made my list before I asked ChatGPT, and I realized like that there are some connections. And this might help you out as well, Adrian, just kind of doing some research. But popular niches from ChatGPT right now, 2024: sustainability and eco-friendly designs. It's huge right now. Eco-friendly, organic, sustainability, those kind of things are huge. Pop culture and nostalgia, positive messaging and mental health, gaming and esports, fitness and activewear. That's another one I would consider myself, the fitness category. Animal lovers, another one I would consider. I think that could be on your list as well, Adrian. Animal lovers.
It is.
Political and social statements, another one. Geek culture, such as sci-fi, fantasy, and comics. Sports and athleisure. And then the last one it said, I thought was really great. It says customized personal messages. And it specifically said personalized t-shirts for special occasions like weddings, birthdays, or family reunions. Okay, I'm going to reveal my 3 niches that I would consider. I'm going to tell you which one I would probably go with based on all the factors. Hey, it's Kerry here, and I want to let you know that this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast is sponsored by Shirt School. If you are somebody who is starting up a brand new online t-shirt, apparel, or print on demand business, and you want to learn my Shirt School system for building that business and making it profitable and actually making sales with it and building it to a 6-figure or even 7-figure online apparel brand, I want to invite you to go watch my free class over at shirtschool.com. You literally just type in shirtschool.com. You can pick a time on that page and you can watch. It's about a 60 to 75 minute class, which will walk you through my entire Shirt School system. And it will also give you the details on becoming a member of my Shirt School program. And this is the exact program I've had since 2019 with thousands of students all around the globe. And as I mentioned, many 6- and 7-figure print on demand and apparel sellers. So I want you to check out that class if that interests you at all. It's shirtschool.com. Back to the episode. Now, if I was doing this, if I was really launching this business, I would do even some more research and just really, really be sure that this is what I wanted to do. But the 3 that I would consider, and I'll tell you why. Number 1 is politics. Number 2 is personalization or personalized products in some way. And number 3 is pickleball. Those are the 3 that I would consider. Now, As for the one that I would choose after considering everything, I think I would go with pickleball. I think pickleball would be the one. And let me give you some reasons for that. And I want to hear yours as well. First of all, politics. Why would I go into politics? Well, honestly, we had that episode last week. You probably, if you didn't hear it, go back last week and listen. We had the episode with Ryan Hogue, and he really convinced me, like, man, you can make so much money with like going into some kind of politics niche. So I was very intrigued by that. I don't like politics. I wouldn't want to get into that whole mess. But if I was purely going off like a money opportunity, just a money cash grab, I know that sounds really bad, but if I was purely just like cash grab, I would probably go politics. Now, the reason I scratched politics off my list and wouldn't go politics, did not end up choosing it, is because I think obviously we're in a bubble here. This is a trend. And I think that it will drop off after the presidential election. And then through really throughout the next few months after that, it's probably going to drop out of sight for the most part. It will still always be, I think, a popular niche, but not to the level it is right now. It's madness right now because at the time of recording this, we're 20 some odd days out from the election. So that's why I personally marked it off my list. Second, personalization. Now, this isn't completely a niche, but it can be considered a niche depending on, you would probably combine this with a niche. So let me come back to that. I picked pickleball mainly because it is still trending in the United States. It's still growing. I play it personally, so I'm super familiar with the culture, what people talk about, the trending topics. And I think it would be really easy for me to come up with viral designs and content and all that kind of stuff in the pickleball niche. What I would say, coming back to personalization, is I think that long term, I think there would be a heavy aspect of personalization in my pickleball brand. I think I would bring this into to my brand and have some personalized products. One example would be that there is a very big trend with uh, pickleball teams, actual tournaments where you have teams and you come up with team names. There's 4 people on a team. It's a really popular tournament format right now. There's 4 people on a team, 2 guys and 2 girls, and everybody always wears uniforms and they come up with these cool names and everything. And I think there would be an aspect where you could buy one of my designs and maybe put your name on the back, right? Or something like that. Or embroider
Cool.
your name on the sleeve, or those kind of aspects. But why I would not do personalization at first. The reason being is because it is a little bit more difficult to execute. And in this situation, this scenario, I just want to get my first sale as quickly as possible. And so what I would focus on more is the most viral designs that I could come up with for the pickleball niche and get that first sale within 7 days. So that's what I would go with as far as niche. That was a lot of thoughts. Adrian, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
All right, I'll try to keep mine short. That was really good. I liked hearing that. I totally agree about personalization. I would not start with personalization. It just adds a layer of complexity, and complexity is the enemy of execution. So if you are adding complexity up front, this is going to slow down your growth up front. I would definitely do that as maybe like a phase 2 or a phase 3 project. Once you've already got some designs selling and you're doing well for yourself. Okay. So when it comes down to niche, I'd narrow it down to one of a couple categories. The categories that I see generally performing the best are pets, animals, careers, sports, activism, hobbies, and special interests. Now, I would personally go with something that I'm super passionate about. And so my recommendations are based on my own passions.
That was my thought too.
Right. Yeah. Because it makes it more fun. 2, it makes it way easier. And 3, like, you can speak to your people, you can speak to your tribe, because you guys, maybe you have inside lingo, maybe you have inside jokes, all sorts of stuff, right? And because you have some proficiency in whatever it is, you're going to have a better understanding of the niche and the type of people in general, like your target audience. So I would probably narrow it down to either a sport, a career, or a pet. And the ones that I kind of narrowed down based on my own personal interests were the gym, for sure. I love going to the gym. So many people are passionate about going to the gym, and they love wearing gym apparel, both to the gym and not at the gym. And it's just something that there's always so many new people every year getting into fitness, getting into the gym, that kind of thing. It does good all year round. And there's so much validation out there, so much evidence with tons of successful gym inspired brands. So gym, hiking, again, lots of validation out there. Veganism, because I do eat a plant-based diet. Mental health, because this is something that my family struggles with. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it is something that hits close to home. And then a pet, if I actually owned one. So if I had a dog or if I had a cat, I would probably start identifying with other pet owners of that specific animal or that specific breed. And it would be super simple to create content. I could literally just go out, find viral style short form reels that went viral of a dog with, let's say, text overlay on it. And I would just do something really similar. I would just film my own dog for 5 to 7 seconds, and then I would put something really, really similar. It just seems like such low hanging fruit for content creation. Now, if I had to choose one of these, the one that speaks to me the most immediately is the gym, because I love working out. I work out at least 5 days a week, and I'm really passionate about it. And I know there's a lot of other people that are passionate about fitness too. So that's probably the route that I would go. Yeah.
Good stuff. No, I think those are the other ones I was kind of thinking about that I was intrigued with, would be like something in the fitness niche, obviously getting a little bit more specific than just fitness, but something in the fitness niche I think would be really good. And then, yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. That's kind of what we would go with. Let's move into the second portion. This one probably a little bit quicker. What products would you sell? My answer is very simple. I think I would go with t-shirts or hats. Those would be the two that I would choose. Why? T-shirts are just what I'm most familiar with. It's what I think I design the best for. I know they will sell, right? Like there's no like questioning whether they would sell. Like they just sell. T-shirts sell, right? So I think I would choose t-shirts. Hats would be the other option, because I love hats. I love wearing hats. I wear hats all the time. And I think that hats are always a kind of an evergreen opportunity. People wear them in the summer, people wear them in the winter. And I've always thought it'd be cool to own a hat brand. And I just never have really, I've sold hats as a part of the brand, but never had a hat brand. And so I think I would either start with t-shirts, maybe add hats or other products later. Sweatshirts and those kind of things would probably be included with that. Or I would just create a hat brand, like a complete hat brand. Those would be the things the products I would sell. Ultimately, I would probably just go with t-shirts to start though, get those first sales. That's what I'm most comfortable with designing for. It's what I know the most about. I know the most about the quality of the different blanks. I know the most about branding them, how to design for them, what people like, how to price them. I know all of that stuff pretty comfortably. So that's probably what I would go with.
Yeah, hats are so underrated, man. It's like my number one selling product of all time. And I know other people, like the people that I started with. So when I started in print on demand, I started with 2 other brand owners. We all created brands together. All of us created 6-figure brands in the first year. And every single one of us, our number one selling product was a hat. Coincidence? I don't think so, because there's way less competition. A lot of people wear them all year round. They're not niche specific at all. They're lightweight. They're cheap to ship. One size fits most. And you can't get too complex with the designs. So there's just so many reasons why I absolutely believe in hats. And I think pretty much everyone should. If you're in apparel, I think you should include hats in your product selection. At least put your best sellers on hats, or a simple modification of your best seller on hats. For me, products, if I'm going in the gym niche, I'm going to do t-shirts, tanks, sweatshirts, hoodies, and hats. That's what I would start with. The nice thing is I can just create one design and put it on every single one of these products. If it is a little bit more complex, then I would just modify it for the hat. But everything else I could put on those products. And the reason why I would do sweatshirts and hoodies, you think gym niche, you think a lot of t-shirts and tank tops. But the thing is, a lot of gym enthusiasts like to share their interests with the world when they're not at the gym. And a lot of them wear sweatshirts and hoodies to the gym. So that's one reason, is I know that a lot of gym enthusiasts will wear those. But secondly, just the higher profits, man. I'm all about high profit products. I would use my t-shirt as kind of like a foot in the door. Maybe it's a lead capture. And then I would try to get people to buy the sweatshirt and or the hoodie version.
Nice. Nice. And so if you're tracking with us, I am kind of tracking the budget throughout this. And so we're at a budget of, we haven't spent any money yet. There's no money been spent out of our $250 budget, but we're about to spend a bunch of it.
Let's go.
But yeah, I mean, one thing, a couple things we didn't touch on, which I would create probably on the first or second day, would be naming the business, creating the logo, the branding as far as colors. You shouldn't need to pay anything for any of those. If you do pay anything for any of those things, it would be the logo, and you could do that with the software that we're going to talk about in the next section. So you might wait on the logo until you have your design software next. So let's move into the next portion of this, which is how would you approach your designs, knowing that, okay, with the constraint of one of these designs has to make a sale, right? Like that's kind of the thing here is like, we only have 7 days, meaning we can only create a limited number of designs that we're going to be marketing. And we need one of these designs to win. Okay. So the first thing I would say, we talk about design research all the time, but let me just bring it back to a quote from my man, Abraham Lincoln. Okay. He said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe."
I love that quote.
I love that quote.
Love that quote.
Say it one more time. "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." To relate that back, if I had 1 day to create a best-selling design, I would spend 23 hours researching what's going to go viral and just spend that final portion creating the design, right? Creating the design is important, but having a plan for a design that is more like guaranteed to get sales, if you can get that the most guaranteed by doing the most research and getting confident in the fact that design will sell, that's so important, right? And we know that what we talked about a lot on the podcast is that simple designs sell the best. So we shouldn't need to spend a ton of time creating the designs. We should actually spend way more time researching what is a potential winning design idea, and less time creating it, because a lot of my designs will be text based, and they'll be very simple color combos, starting with black t-shirts, white, heather grays, those kind of t-shirt colors. So I would spend a lot of time doing design research. As far as where I would do design research, I'm taking a little bit of a page out of your playbook, Adrian. And I know you're really going to agree with a lot of this stuff. So we may not need to, we don't need to say the same thing over and over, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts when I'm done. But I would use part of my budget, and I would use a tool like Everbee or Allura, which are basically Etsy research tools where we can see the best sellers, what products are going viral, and those kind of things. And that would cost us, with Everbee, that would cost us around $30. Now, they have a free version. You can do a lot with that free version. But for me, if I had the $250 budget, I would spend $30 on like Everbee, for instance. And I've been using Everbee a little bit, and it's really helpful, right? Like you can just search terms in there in the Everbee tool. It's going to pull up the sales for these different products, and you can filter them in different ways. You can see, which products sold more or less, and you can see what time frames they sold in. So you can find the t-shirt designs within niches that have sold more recently, and you can rank those, and you can look at those, and you can link right out to the product page so you can see all of the mock-ups and different things. And I think this would be one of the ways that I would do a lot of design research within my niche. And this would help me do it quickly because I'm very limited on time. So I would use a tool like Everbee. I would be searching within my niche on Etsy, a large marketplace, and be taking screenshots and taking notes of the top selling designs within my niche right now, because I want to see what color combos, what product styles, and what design styles are doing well right now. In addition to that, I would also be doing a lot of research. We could also do this within Everbee of what, just in general, what kind of design styles are popular right now. We've talked about recently on the podcast different styles that are popular right now, like cowboy and western and different things like that, right? So I would be taking note of the groovy type stuff. Okay, these design styles are selling really hot right now. So I would add that to kind of my Google Doc of my brand, right? Um, I would also be researching what the current trends are in the world outside of my niche, right? To add to my plan. As we mentioned, right now, like politics is crazy in the US. So there might be some, uh, you know, political designs that are like doing really well that I could add to the pickleball niche or the fitness niche to kind of have a bigger chance of that design going viral because playing off current trends, right? There might be music, pop culture, movies, music trends. I think I already said music, movies, news trends that are happening that I could play off of within my niche to create designs kind of playing off those current trends. A couple other things I'll cover really quickly. I would obviously, in addition to researching like with Everbee, I would research any competitor brands I could find within my niche, taking note of what they are promoting on ads, promoting on social media, and what looks to be selling the most. I would also use the help of AI to help me come up with slogan ideas, as well as design ideas and trends. I'd use something like Google Trends as well, just to kind of further research things. So that would be kind of my design research phase. Then what I would do is I thought about this a lot, and I think I would end up just designing all of these within Kittl. Kittl would be like my choice where I would go to for software. You can get like a discounted plan on Kittl. So this would run me about $11.25 monthly. Now, with all these tools, I'm only accounting for the first month because we're just talking about what we would do in the first 7 days. So I'd have to pay $30 for Everbee. There may be a free trial with that. I may be able to get a free trial.
Well, you can get the free plan, but I will say the gold is in the paid plan. Like the best stats, the best data, the most valuable data is in the paid plan.
Yeah,
so I would happily spend that $30 because you're either paying for in the form of money or time, right? And when time is of the essence, I value my time. I would rather pay like $30 a month is a great deal for me to get data and valuable insights in a fraction of the time.
Yeah. So $30 for Everbee and then $11.25 monthly for Kittl. This is on the monthly plan, not the annual plan. And what I would do is I would use Kittl to create 15 to 20 initial designs. Now, keep in mind, these 15 to 20 designs, I have spent 85% of my time researching and coming up with these ideas that have a much higher likelihood of selling. And I spend 10 to 15% of my time actually designing, turning those ideas into like real designs. And so that's how I would approach it with 15 to 20 designs. So I think I've recapped that 15 to 20 designs. I would use Everbee as well as researching competitors, including pop culture trends and topics, using the help of AI, coming up with 15 to 20 design ideas. And then I would use Kittl to actually create the designs. And I would end up with 15 to 20 basically transparent PNG files ready to be uploaded to a print on demand provider. And I would also use Kittl to create my brand logo. So I wouldn't spend any additional money on logo. It would just be as part of my graphic design software, which would be Kittl. I would create my logo in there. That's what I would do.
Love that.
I think there's probably a lot of overlap in what you would think as well.
Yeah. So how much do you want me to say right now? Are we just talking about designs?
We're just talking about how would you approach creating your design. So you've chosen your niche.
Yeah.
You've got a name for your brand, those kind of things. You have to create designs for your brand. How would you approach that? What would your strategy look like?
All right. So this would be my approach. Very similar to you. Majority of the time goes into design research because one winning design is going to make you way more sales than 100 trash designs. So I would be very intentional about allocating a lot of time to design research, design creation. I would keep pretty much all of my designs super simple, or I would use a Kittl template because Kittl templates are beautiful and a lot of them are on trend and whatnot. They make it really easy. They do 90+% of the work for you. So yes, design research, same as you. Etsy's my favorite place to do design research. Everbee's my favorite tool to do design research. It's a game changer in times of time savings. And that's huge. Like, we only got a short period of time. So I would happily spend the $30 a month. I do happily spend the money to have this program. And then the other places I would go are Instagram and competitor websites. So I would spend some time to actually make a long list of competitors and other really popular apparel brands that might not even be in my niche, but that I can repurpose a lot of their designs. Like brands that are doing really well and there's clear validation that they're doing really well, I would follow them just to see what kind of trends they're doing. And a lot of their stuff you can just repurpose for your niche. It's like such an easy way to create original designs is take a winner from some other brand in another niche and then apply it to your niche. And there's a chance it'll do well. So the majority of my time would go to design research. In terms of design creation, I would break this up into two phases. The first thing I would do is select the niche, come up with 3 to 5 designs just to have something on my website, and then get my website built and launched. That would be all my focus for maybe like the first 2 days or 3 days or something like that. And then after that, I would ramp up my design research and creation a lot. Like, my goal would be to drop 50 to 100 designs, to have 50 to 100 designs up on my website as soon as possible. So at first, I just want a couple designs so I have a placeholder, essentially something there, right? But then I would just really, once I've launched my website, I would shift my focus to 3 things: design research, design creation, marketing. That's where like 90+% of my time would go. And I would do a lot more design research, and I would try to get 50 to 100 designs up on my website as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, let's move into the next phase, which would be building out our store. So we need to actually have a place to sell our store, right? So the question is, what would you prioritize when building out your store? I think this is a tough question. We've actually talked about this a lot because we have programs where we teach this kind of stuff. And one of the goals in my program in Shirt School is like, I do want to get you to sales as quickly as possible. So sometimes there's things you may need to prioritize. We love Shopify and we recommend starting on Shopify, and it is very affordable to get started on Shopify. But when talking about Shopify, it can be very complicated for some people and very difficult for some people. And there's also, and I think overall it's a very simple platform, but it can be difficult for some people because there's a lot of options and there are a million apps that you can add on to Shopify. And it can get very overwhelming when, you're thinking, do I need this app? Well, that app looks like it would help me. Do I need that? Do I need that? Then all of a sudden your monthly bill is like through the roof, and you have all these apps that you don't really know, you're not using to the fullest potential. And it's probably slowing down your store because you've got 30 apps in your store. So when talking about building out your store, I want to keep it as simple as possible. And so what I would do is I would start a Shopify account. The current offer, it's $1 for about 33 days. So I have the free trial for 3 days and then $1 for 30 days after that. So it's about 33 days for $1. So that gives us more than the 8 days or 7 days we need to get started here for just $1. And what I would focus on, and this is kind of what I teach in Shirt School, is I would focus on building an MVP store. That's minimum viable product. I want the minimum store that I could take to market and prove the concept for my brand before I spend a lot more time, money, and energy into really, really making it this beautiful store with all the bells and whistles that might come with those additional apps, or spending a lot more time on the design, upgrading a lot of the different things there. Even things like email lists, right? Email list is so important. And I know, Adrian, we're probably different on this, but in this situation, I probably wouldn't even worry about the email list because I just want to get those first sales in. And then I would definitely put huge focus on email. But for me, I want to keep it as simple as possible. I don't want any pop-ups, anything kind of deterring people at all. I want a very simple store with simple branding. So I want my logo. I want some beautiful mock-ups. And I'll talk about mock-ups in just a second. And I want simple branding, 2 colors, easy to find everything, organized well, doesn't need anything crazy. I'm not adding a blog. I'm not adding, any like stock countdown timers, anything like that, right? It's a very simple and professional looking store. The minimum viable product that looks trustworthy. I would be adding reviews, making sure that I have reviews on that store. But that's kind of how I would approach the Shopify store. Keep it as simple as possible because I just want to get those first sales in. Then I can add on some of the additional bells and whistles and some of the additional things I can need that can be helpful, but I don't need them right now. This one might be a little controversial for us, but I would also list my products on Etsy in the beginning. I would list them on Etsy. In this scenario, again, I mentioned at the beginning, this isn't necessarily what I would always recommend, but I would in this scenario with the goal of getting those sales as quickly as possible within the first 7 days. I would list all my products on Etsy as in addition to my Shopify store. Here's why. And by the way, Etsy has a $30 startup cost. It's $30 to open your store. They don't have a monthly fee, but they do have a $30 fee to start your store. And then it's like, I think 40 cents per listing after that. So you'd be listing 20 designs, 40 cents per listing. But we're going to go with $30 to keep it simple. Here's why I would list my products on Etsy. I think it's really easy to get sales on Etsy as a small side hustle. And I don't think it requires a lot of additional energy or time if you're going to create print on demand products to also send them to Etsy. The reason I say this, and I am warming up to Etsy more and more. The reason is I've never been a big Etsy user, but I started an Etsy store with my son a couple months ago. And it's been interesting because I've actually been able to go through it's his little business. He's making some money with it on the side. He's 8 years old, but I've been able to go through the process with him and like create products and mock-ups and, do SEO on it and all this kind of stuff. We've actually made a bunch of sales and it's actually really, really cool. And so what I've learned is that it's a very easy platform to list products on and get started. And if you, again, going back to what we talked about, if you do the research up front, if you have a plan when you list a product, it's actually, once you list it, you do the SEO, you title it correctly, you have really high quality mockups. It's not that difficult to bring in a few sales. Now, we're not making millions of dollars, right? But as far as getting a few sales in, I actually think it's pretty simple to get your first few sales. And a lot of the type of designs that I would be creating, I think would do well on Etsy. So I think it would be worth investing the $30 startup fee on Etsy and listing all of my 15 to 20 designs on Etsy in addition to my Shopify store, because it would require very little time, extra time, in my opinion, and it could potentially lead to some additional sales. It wouldn't be my main platform. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be this big selling thing, but it could bring in some additional sales and could potentially give me that first sale that I need within that 7-day time frame. A couple other things and I'll finish up. High quality mockups, either created through AI or purchased from Etsy. I would probably look to Etsy to purchase a high quality mockup from there. If I was going to go with AI, I would go with Ideogram pretty much for quality and price. It's $8 per month. I don't think there's a better AI software deal out there than Ideogram because I could also do some design stuff with it. But if you ask Ideogram to create person mockups, it's actually really good for that. And then if I went with Etsy, I would allocate probably $20 to $25 to just get a few basic mockups from Etsy that I could add my design on that were high quality and fit my brand. And I think that's where I would go for budget's sake. I might go to other places like Creative Market or other places if I had more budget, but because I have a really low budget, $250 total, I think I would go to Etsy, the combination of Etsy and Ideogram for getting like lifestyle mockups and also getting some basic, high quality flat lays and different things like that. I would use that combo of Etsy and Ideogram with about a $20 to $35 budget total for both of those things. So that's my plan for building out my store, Adrian.
Whew, that was good. A lot of things I would do similarly. Some things I would do different. So first of all, of course, I'm going to use Shopify because I'm not techie. You don't need to know coding. You don't need to be a developer. Yeah. You definitely don't need someone to create your website for you. I would keep it extremely simple. I would use one of the pre-made templates. I would do the Dawn theme. It's free. Yeah. Shopify supports it because it's their theme. and it's pre-made for you. So it's kind of just plug and play, fill in the blank, that kind of thing. My logo, I would definitely create in either Canva or Kittl. I would actually spend some of my, what is it, $250 we have?
Yep.
I would get both. I would definitely get both. I'd get the Canva Pro free trial, and then I would get Kittl with the discount, of course. And I would use both. So I would definitely create my logo from one of those two. I would just find a template, and then I would just maybe change out a word or two and maybe some colors or something. I would, like you, I would keep everything super simple color scheme, black, white, and one other color. That's it. Just one other brand color. Let's see. In terms of mockups, I would go on Etsy and I would find a really aesthetically pleasing flat lay of each primary product that I'm going to sell. And I would use that as my primary image at the beginning, just to keep things really, really simple. I would only offer my shirt or my products in 1 to 3 colors. And it would definitely be black, white, and gray would be like, if I was going to offer in 3, those would be the colors. If I was going to offer in 1, it would be black, because black's the number 1 best-selling t-shirt color of all time. Consistently, like every single year. So that's what I would do. I would do white, pretty much all white graphics on black shirts. Some things I would use the colors, like if I was using a Kittl template and there were multiple colors. If it were like a Christmas themed design, I would do red and white. If it was Halloween, orange and white on black, something like that. Keep it really, really simple. I would get a Place It account because it's so cheap. It's just so cheap. And I've had 6-figure ads come from Place It mockups. So I would definitely get a Place It account. Knowing what I know now, like 80% of Place It mockups are trash for like conversions, but like there's like a percentage of them that can do really, really well.
Well, when you real quick, if you say 20% are good and 80% are trash, that's literally thousands of mockups.
It still does.
Like there's so many mockups in Place It that even just 10%, if 10% of them are good, you still have probably hundreds to choose from. So
yeah, I would probably only work with about like 10% of them actually. Yeah. And that's still a ton to work with, but you don't need that many when you're first starting out. So yeah, I would get a Place It account. I would use Etsy to find my favorite lifestyle mockups. That's where I would go for really like potentially high converting lifestyle mockups. I would actually use Everbee to research the best selling mockups, and then I would go and I would just cherry pick the best selling mockups, because there's so much evidence that they're converting. Obviously, the design is number 1, and the design has to be good. But if you can find best-selling designs and you see a trend, like if you see the same mock-up on Etsy being used for like 10 best sellers, well, you've got lots of validation there that that's resonating with people. So yeah, I would use Everbee. I'd find the best-selling mock-ups. I would cherry pick the ones that I saw on Winning Designs through my design research. And then I would use Place It for secondary lifestyle mock-ups, some flat lays. And then I would definitely buy one beautiful flat lay that I would use as my primary image on my website, just to keep things really simple. I wouldn't go out and create like a lifestyle image for every single design if I'm going to do 50 to 100. What I would do is I would optimize the best performing designs once they show validation. If I can just isolate one variable at a time, like if I can have a beautiful flat lay and and the design is the only variable, everything else is the same, then it's very easy to identify which ones have the most promise, because there's only one single variable, and that's a design. So once I found out which designs had the most promise, then I would start optimizing, and I'd give them the best lifestyle images that I got from Etsy. I'd have them ready to go, and then I would put them on the best ones. You could even use it on lots of products if you want. I just wouldn't make it the primary image on them, because it looks weird on a website if you have a lifestyle image, the same lifestyle image as your primary image for every single product. It looks, I don't know, spammy or something. It just doesn't look trustworthy and professional. So I would stick with a flat lay or like a blank, just a product only mock-up as a primary image. Let's see what else. So for mockups, Place It, Etsy, and then if I was going to use AI, Ideogram on your recommendation, Kerry. I would
There's
go with
other great
Ideogram.
ones. Like there's other great ones we talked about. It's just for the
Yeah.
budget. If I'm really budget conscious, you get the most bang for your buck out of Ideogram. Like it's even the
Yeah.
people you create for lifestyle mockups. It's so real. Like they look so realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I would go with that one. Now here's where I would differ. I would not create an Etsy store right out of the gate
I was
because
on the
it's a
fence.
different.
I was on the
Huh?
fence.
What's that?
I was on the fence.
Yeah, it's a different platform with a different strategy.
Yep.
SEO is a search based algorithm,
Mhm.
whereas Shopify, you're going out, it's more like a disruption based marketing, right?
Mhm.
So it's two very different strategies. Etsy is very SEO optimized. There's it just for a number of reasons, mainly because the strategy differs so much. I definitely love Etsy as a secondary sales channel, but I would not do it at the beginning because with diluted focus comes diluted results. And if I only have 7 days to do this, I don't want to spread myself across two programs, trying to get all my products on this program and all my products in this program and all the SEO on Etsy. And you know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of extra work, even though Etsy, you're totally right. It's a low barrier to entry.
Mhm.
But I would put my brand on Etsy if it wasn't like a super premium lifestyle brand or something, if
Yeah.
the pricing was really competitive and whatnot, then I would put it on Etsy. But I wouldn't do it until I had mastered Shopify, and by mastery, I just mean you understand it and you've made sales. And you're comfortable with it. And now you're like, okay, how can I branch out in terms of marketing? Because that should be a big focus once you're dialed in on your website and everything like that. So I would do that as a future initiative. I would get the sales in Shopify first. Yeah, I think that's all I got for that. Did you want to talk about like email marketing and stuff? You did mention one thing. You said that with your MVP. So I'm huge fan of the MVP, huge
Mhm.
fan, especially if you've got 7 days of minimum budget.
Yeah.
So I would also like so the website should be crazy simple, like bare
Mhm.
bones simple. I would barely use any apps, maybe no apps for the first 7 days till I get sales and whatnot. Um,
The only
but
thing that you could go back and forth with would be like getting a review app. Although I think you could use, I don't think you'd have to pay any money for a review app. Like I would,
judge.me,
yeah,
that's what I
I
would
would
use.
use a free review app, and
Yeah.
I would get reviews, even if they're just very like you send them out to five of your closest friends and say like send me back a text of what you think about this, and you use those five reviews. Like
Yeah.
I would have a few reviews would be one thing. But I have a few more thoughts, but finish where you were going.
Yeah, I would get the Judge Me app and I
Yeah,
would use the free version.
yeah,
That's exactly what I would do. Um, and the last thing I was going to say, another place where I would differ is I would set up a Klaviyo account. Although I
it's
wouldn't
free.
go crazy with it, I wouldn't go crazy. But the thing is, if I'm going to be driving traffic to my website, you best bet I'm going to try to collect their emails
Yeah,
because if I've spent time and energy and potentially budget driving people to my website, I know statistically they're not likely to buy the first time they visit my website. But if I can incentivize them, if I'm like really motivated to get that sale or the first couple of sales, I would give a crazy discount, like 25% off. Of course, I would make sure that it works when they profit margins. You never want to lose money. I would give like 25% off just to start collecting
mhm,
emails. And at a minimum, I would set up an abandoned cart automation. So I would set up Klaviyo. I would set up the pop-up email capture. And at a minimum, I would set up the abandoned cart automation. So what's nice about this is every time I send people to my website, I'm likely going to collect their email address if they're interested in the products, which they probably are because they came to my website based on marketing. And then I'm going to remarket to them. Down the road, I would start sending regular campaigns. But at the minimum, I would do an abandoned cart flow because I know that that's going to recover a lot of these people. We live in a very disruptive world. A lot of people, the reason why they abandon their cart is not because they don't want to buy the product. There's intention when they add an item to their cart. Most of them actually have the intention of buying the product. So I would have the abandoned cart to recover them.
yeah. I think that's great. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think that to simplify it, I would just use the built-in abandoned cart in Shopify. And you could use Shopify email as well, like if you just want to collect emails. Like I would want to collect the emails, but I just would want to do as little work as possible. I would edit the abandoned cart just because it would be silly to try to get your first sale and then like the abandoned cart and you don't even try to get them back. So I would edit the abandoned cart a little bit. It comes preloaded in Shopify. You don't need an additional app to do that. What Adrian's saying is you could get Klaviyo. You can start Klaviyo for free and you could do a much better abandoned cart. But I think I would just start with what's built in, and just do that. A couple other just quick thoughts I had, which we are getting low on time here, but a couple other quick thoughts I had. The things I would focus on your website, the most important things would be the mockups, probably the pricing, and the reviews. Like those would be the three things that I would spend most time like considering. Like product descriptions can be very time consuming, and I would just come up with a like one product description that I could put across all 20 of my designs really quickly. But I would be really concerned about the mock-ups would be a big thing, and the reviews would probably, just because I want it to be an easy purchasing decision for people. So I want to make the best case that I can for them to buy.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Can I say one thing about about Klaviyo? I just want to mention this in case anyone is using Klaviyo. They have a template library, and so they have pre-done for you email automations for a ton of different things, like welcome series, automation, or abandoned cart, post-purchase, all sorts of scenarios. So I would use one of the pre-made templates for abandoned cart, and then I would slightly modify it, very slightly, keep it very minimal, but just make sure my branding's on there, that it's really clean, really simple.
Yep. All right. Two more here. I got two more, and we're gonna. This one we'll move through pretty fast. So the next question is, what social media platform would you use, assuming that you would get your first sales with social media? So I'm going to keep mine really simple. The last question we have is, what would be your marketing strategy? Would you start with organic, paid, or maybe would you have another marketing strategy? I'm just going to spoil it. I would personally go with paid ads for the reason being that I need to get the sale as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. So I would want to go with a paid ad strategy to try to get a sale as quickly as possible. So what social media platform would you use? Personally, I would open an Instagram account and a Facebook business page, and all I would do would be I would fill those accounts with 15 to 20 pieces of content. I would probably spend a little bit of time on those initial pieces of content, but essentially what I would also add my logo, professional logo. I would spend quite a bit of time writing the bio, making sure that the bio is optimized. But my goal is not to get it. My goal would not be to get my first sale from organic social media. So all that I would be doing is setting up a online presence and making my brand look as real and professional as possible, so that when people see my ad, maybe click over to the profile, or if they happen to find my profile, it would look like an established brand, not just like, it wouldn't have 0 posts on it or one post telling people that I just started. I would want it to look a little bit more established. So what I would do is I would add 15 to 20 pieces of probably mostly value-based content, either funny, relatable, controversial, inspirational, or educational content. I would make sure my logo and bio are optimized. And then as I'm starting to promote my brand and market my brand, I would keep it active every day throughout the process with both stories and adding new posts each day, at least one new post per day in my feed. And you would want to continue doing that. But for this experiment, throughout this process of trying to get that first sale, I would keep that account active as I'm marketing. But for me, social media, it would be Instagram and Facebook. And my goal, I would not be trying to like get a sale from this. I would just be setting up a online presence that looks professional.
Love that. Love that. So definitely Instagram, hands down. I would have the Facebook business page, because what I love about that is that you can set it up so that when you post to Instagram, it automatically posts to Facebook as well. You're getting a 2-for-1, right? You're getting your content on another platform with essentially no extra work except for that upfront one and done Facebook page setup, which should be so simple. Just use a very similar bio like you would for Instagram. Of course, mine would be optimized. A couple things. I would explain my brand in why my brand exists in one single sentence and call out my ideal customer. I would have a call to action and I would have a call to action link, which would take them to my bestsellers. Even though I don't have bestsellers, I'll still create a bestseller collection that's dynamic in Shopify and that'll automatically update with my bestsellers as I make sales. I would batch just like I'm a huge advocate and I'm really bullish on design research. I'm also very bullish on content research, because the thing is, one good viral piece of content can reach way more than 30 pieces of trash content or like not viral content. The nice thing is my goal would be to create content. I would do research on content that's gone viral with my niche, and I would find ways to put my own unique touch on it. I would create content inspired by that viral style content. So right away, the Instagram algorithm starts recommending my content to my ideal customer. And my goal wouldn't be to go viral in general. My goal would be to go viral with my ideal customer. So I would actually set time aside for content research. I would create 30 pieces. I would batch create 30 pieces of content. I would sit my butt down and I would create 30 pieces of content all in one sitting. I would put out 12 pieces immediately, so my grid looks full. And then every day I would drip out another piece. And then what I would also do is in the stories, I would start sharing some of my products just to kind of like put them out there. I don't want them on my grid right away because I'm focused on growth, and posting your products is not the best way to grow. Although really quickly, I would start introducing my products, but I would only introduce them maybe like once every fourth post or something like that. But in the stories, I would share that day's post, and then I would share a product as well, just so I can like get them out there and kind of see if I can get any feedback as I start getting followers and stuff. And my goal with Instagram would be to drive people to my website. The goal would be to drive people to get them to click that call to action link, to go to my website, to collect their email, and then to remarket to them. So in the long term, I would be remarketing to them forever and trying to convert them there. But in the short term, I would at least have that abandoned cart flow set up. I would be collecting emails. And if time allowed, I would do like one or two campaigns. I would keep them really, really simple. I would use a email template made in Klaviyo, and I would keep it really bare bones. And it would just be new arrivals. It would just be dropping new arrivals.
Yeah.
I would probably send one or two of those if I had the time, and promote some products that way.
Yep.
Of course, only if I actually had subscribers.
Good stuff.
Oh, the last thing I was going to say is I also would start running ads, because I would have some budget left over and I'm very short on time. I would definitely start testing my designs with low budget ads. My goal would be to test all of my designs, just to look for indicators of winners, right? Yeah. So you don't need a big budget to identify the ones with the most potential. You can actually do it very easily with a small budget. You might not make sales because the budget's so small, but you're going to notice certain metrics are outliers with certain designs. And that I would use as validation to know which ones had the most promise. And then those ones I would take over and I would run ads just to them.
And you kind of covered it there, but that's the last portion of this is like, what would be our marketing strategy? What would be your marketing strategy for getting your first sale? Remember the goal, get our first sale, not from mom or your brother or, your friends. How would you get your first sale? So if you're wondering where are we at with the budget, I'll let you know. As far as my calculations, we have about $144 left. So that's how much money we have left now. Yeah, that's great. So, and that's on purpose. Like, I would be very conscious with $250 budget of really minimizing the software. I wouldn't just be splurging on software, because I would want as much money as I can save to use on advertising. As I mentioned, the reason I would go with paid ads, and specifically Facebook and Instagram ads, are a couple reasons. First of all, we need to get our sale fast. It's going to be much faster trying to get that sale from an ad than it will be from doing it with free social media or organic marketing. Facebook and Instagram's ads also statistically have the highest return on investment of any online advertising platform, even over TikTok and even some of the ones that have been more trendy lately. So I would use the remainder of my days as well as budget spending it on Facebook and Instagram ads, testing the designs that I have in my store and trying to find not even necessarily a winner Adrian, just one that can get me a sale or two. Give me a few sales, okay? Because that's my goal right now. Get those first few sales. I also want to mention, just as a word of advice, everything changes after you get those first few sales. Like, Adrian, you know what that feeling is like when your phone, when the cha-ching sound happens on the Shopify app on your phone for the first time? Like,
I
it's a
don't think there's a
really good,
better feeling of a sale than that first
yeah.
sale. Like I can't remember ever feeling better than making that first sale from
No,
a
for real.
total stranger in terms of a sale.
It's silly, but like the 100th sale or the thousandth sale, it doesn't feel as good as the first sale. And
Yeah,
so,
there's
like,
nothing like it.
again, if you set a goal, this is why I think this is powerful, that what we're doing is, if you set a goal of getting that first sale, I promise you the motivation you're going to feel, the excitement you're going to feel, uh, you're just going to be on another level once you get that first sale, and everything's going to change. You're going to want to start doing things different ways, and really upping your strategy. So anyways, back to getting specific about marketing, I would use the remainder, which is about $144 on Facebook and Instagram advertising, to get Etsy out of the way. I would also have those products listed on Etsy, and I would be using Everbee or Allura, tools like that. And I would be doing my research on best-selling designs in my niche and looking at the SEO terms, the titling, the mock-ups they're using, the product descriptions in Etsy. And I would be using that as my guide to list my products and try to get them to rank in search as well. So getting out of the way. Mock-ups are very important on Etsy. So I did put a note in here. You make sure you have really good mock-ups on Etsy, because those are like so important. Here's how I would approach my Facebook ads. This, again, I'm looking at this in the scope. So this isn't, I would probably go a different direction with more budget or more time. This is just what I would do with this budget. I mentioned that I would have 15 to 20 designs, mainly all on t-shirts. So I would run 2 different carousel ads with 10 designs each at $10 per day for 3 days. So a carousel is essentially an ad you can swipe through. You can view up to 10 cards that have 10 different products in there, and the customer can click on whichever one they want. So I would run 2 different carousels, 10 designs each at $10 per day for 3 days. That would be a total spend of $60 of my budget. And my hope is that at the end of 3 days, there's a couple scenarios. The first scenario, and the most ideal scenario, is that I have made a sale of one of those 20 designs in the carousel. Hopefully I've made a sale. Whether I have made a sale or whether I haven't made a sale, what I would do then is I would look at every single one of those cards in the individual metrics and see which card was getting the most attention, meaning which was being clicked on the most, which had any sales, which had add to carts. I would be analyzing all the data at the end of 3 days to see which designs got the most action, most stuff happening. At that point, like I said, hopefully I would have a sale, but I would use the remaining budget, which is about $84, to then turn off my carousel ads and test in the individual designs from my 2 carousel ads that got the most engagement, add to cart, clicks, and sales. And so that's how I would use the remainder of my budget. And hopefully I would either have a sale from my ads or a sale from Etsy, or maybe both. Hopefully I'd be in a good spot after that. That would be my strategy.
Love that. All right. Mine is pretty similar, but also differs in a couple different ways.
You got $144.
What's that?
You got $144.
Well, I got an extra $30 because I'm not starting an Etsy.
There you go. Yeah, okay. You got $174. There you go.
I got lots of money to blow. $174. You could do a lot of damage with $174.
Nice.
So,
no, you bought Place It.
What's that?
No, I'm just kidding. I said you bought Place It.
That's
kidding.
True. What's that? Like $10 a month?
Okay, $170.
All right. So
with our fake money.
All right. What's that?
With our make-believe money.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
If I had the time, I would set up Instagram Shop. And I would tag my products on posts, even value posts. I would consider tagging relevant products to those value posts, just as another opportunity to let people know that I have a shop without being overly invasive or aggressive or salesy and looking like, it's like, all it is my products being like, buy. It's way less like salesy feeling if you're attaching a product to a value post that's actually relevant to the post, right? So I would set up my Instagram shops. And the reason why I would do that is because then I would run ads and I would let Meta send them to either my shops or my website based on where they thought was best. They're really good at determining where people are comfortable buying. And a lot of those people are going to buy in shops and a lot of them are going to buy in website. So I would let Meta make that decision because they know better than me, especially at the beginning. Now, when it comes to budget, I would go a little bit different. I actually wouldn't do the carousel. The reason why I'm not as huge of a fan of carousels is people actually have to take the action of swiping through. And a lot of times they will not swipe through. They'll only see the first product, or they'll only swipe through a couple and they won't see the others. And so it wouldn't give me as accurate data as if I actually tested all the designs separately. So I would do something a little crazy, man. Like if I had 100 designs, I would test every single design individually. So I would do like, what's that?
It's for $1.
No, not for $1. Not for $1. Kidding. So I would do one campaign with one ad set. I would keep every variable the same except for the design. Every variable would be the same except for the design. So it would be one campaign, one ad set. It'd be 100 designs. I would use the same mockup for every single one. I would probably use the same ad copy for every single one. And the only variable would be the design. I would run that for about $25 a day for 3 days. And what you're going to realize very quickly is that probably like 1 to 5% of those designs are going to be outliers. And really quickly, you can identify this. You might not make sales with that kind of budget, but you can definitely start seeing the data, like where Meta would, put these. Now, there's 2 ways you could go about this. You could actually create 100 ad sets and have one ad going to each one. But what I would do is I would actually set the budget from the campaign level, and I would let Meta use their best judgment to determine which ones they think have the most promise. And then I would pick out the outliers, which are going to be probably 1 to 5% of those designs. After the 3 days, I would turn that off unless it was profitable. Or I would just turn off all the ones that clearly aren't winners, because Facebook ads, the beautiful thing about them is they're one of the fastest ways to get validation. Whether it's good or bad, you can get validation that no one wants this, or you can get validation that people want it, right? And so what I would do is I might turn off that campaign, or what I would do is I would just keep the ones with the most promise, and then I would isolate the outliers, the 1 to 5 designs that are the outlier. It might only be 1 or 2. In a lot of cases, it might be, especially at the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. Even though you should be using a lot of validation to create the design. So in theory, they're all validated designs, but still, even with validated designs, out of 100, maybe only a couple of them are going to show promise. So what I would do is I would take those, let's say there's 1 to 5, something like that. I would take them and I would start breaking them out. The one that performed the best, I would give that one its own campaign. And then I might make the other 4, if they didn't perform nearly as good, I might make them kind of fight. Like I might do a campaign, a CBO, campaign budget optimization, with one ad set and those 4, and see which one performs the best there. And then I would reward that one with its own campaign. And I would just do this until I made a sale. Well, I would do it for 3 days. Very likely you would make a sale by then. But yeah, that's what I would do. So pretty similar, a little bit different.
I like it. I like that it's 2 different strategies. I mean, and that's a good thing to bring up, is like, there's not only one strategy to make sales. This is just how we would approach it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you can make sales, and there's many that we didn't mention here, but this is the way that we would approach it. So, man, I hope that was helpful. I think there was some really good nuggets in there, man. I think there was some good stuff in there. I think it's good for our listeners to hear exactly how we would approach it. Put in that kind of constraint. So I want to say a huge thank you. I want to say a huge thank you for listening today. I thought this was a really fun episode, and I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on whichever platform you are listening from. Thank you so much in advance, and we'll talk to you very soon.